Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are opening up what is literally the ultimate biological instruction manual for living beings. Whether you're a student gearing up for a tough biology exam, or honestly, just someone fascinated by the science of life, understanding the language of genetics is your absolute foundational first step. We've got all the precise definitions up on the screen for you today, so as we go, I'll be breaking down this terminology that explains how life is built, chapter by chapter.
You know, it's a question we've all asked at some point, right? Why do you look like your parents, but, well, not exactly? Or why in the world does a certain trait completely skip a generation? The answers are actually hiding right there in the microscopic dictionary of ourselves. Okay, let's dive into this and start unpacking the terminology that makes you, you.
Here's our quick roadmap for today. 1. The basics of heredity. 2. DNA, genes, and chromosomes. 3. Genotypes, phenotypes, and crosses. 4. Cells, reproduction, and mutation. And 5. Complex traits and disorders.
All right, starting right off with section 1, the basics of heredity.
So, the actual term genetics was coined way back in 1905 by a guy named William Bateson. Genetics is simply the branch of biology that deals with heredity, inheritance, variation, and the cellular structures that control the whole shebang. Now, heredity is just the transmission of characteristics from parents to offspring, which is what ensures a species actually continues. Inheritance is the actual biological mechanism by which those traits are physically transmitted through genes. And importantly, we have variation. This refers to the differences among individuals of the exact same species. Think height or eye color. Variation is absolutely crucial because it provides the raw material needed for evolution to happen.
Now, it's super easy to mix up these next two terms, character and trait. A character is any heritable feature of an organism that can exist in different forms, like plant height or flower color. Think of a character as the broad category, kind of like ice cream flavor. A trait, on the other hand, is the particular, specific expression of that character. So if the character is plant height, the trait is being tall or dwarf. If the character is ice cream flavor, the trait is chocolate or vanilla. Makes sense, right?
Moving right along to section 2. DNA, genes, and chromosomes.
So the term gene was introduced by Wilhelm Johansen in 1909. A gene is the basic structural and functional unit of heredity. It's essentially a tiny segment of DNA that carries the exact instructions to produce a specific protein. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the concept of the allele. Alleles, which by the way used to be called allelomorphs back in the day, are alternative forms of the exact same gene. For example, a gene for plant height might have a tall allele and a dwarf allele. And where do these alleles actually live? At a locus. A locus is simply the specific fixed position occupied by a gene on a chromosome. Basically, think of it as the gene's street address.
So, what are chromosomes? They are these thread-like DNA protein structures hanging out in the cell's nucleus that actually carry these genes. We humans have 46 of them in total. We inherit what are called homologous chromosomes. This just means a pair, one from mom, one from dad, that have the exact same size, shape, and gene arrangement. Of our 46 chromosomes, 22 pairs are autosomes, meaning they don't determine gender. The one remaining pair are the sex chromosomes, which do determine gender. XX for female, XY for male. All of this is made up of DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid. This is the ultimate hereditary material that stores and transfers genetic info. And if you zoom out and take the complete set of genetic material in an organism, you get the genome. To put that into perspective, the human genome is massive. It contains approximately 3.2 billion base pairs.
All right, on to section 3. Genotypes, phenotypes, and crosses.
The distinction here is absolutely vital. Genotype is the hidden internal genetic constitution or makeup of an organism. We usually represent this by letters like a capital T and a lowercase t. The phenotype, however, is the observable characteristic you can actually see with your own eyes, like a tall plant or brown hair. The golden rule to remember here is that phenotype depends on two things, the genotype plus the environment. When we look at those genotype letters, they represent alleles that can be either dominant or recessive. A dominant allele, which we show with a capital letter, is basically the loud voice in the room. It expresses itself no matter what, whether it's paired with another dominant allele or a recessive one. A recessive allele, represented by a small letter, is much quieter. It literally only expresses itself if it is paired with another recessive allele. Otherwise, it just gets completely overpowered and hidden by the dominant one. And this brilliantly illustrates our next two terms.
If an individual possesses two identical alleles for a gene, like two capital T's or two small t's, they are homozygous, which is also known as pure. But if they possess two different alleles, like a capital T and a small t, they are heterozygous, which is known as a hybrid.
Let's see how this all builds into tracing a family tree during a genetic experiment. A pure line is produced through continuous self-fertilization, giving you identical offspring generation after generation. A hybrid is the offspring produced by crossing genetically different parents. The original parents at the start of the experiment are called the parental generation, or just P. Their first-generation offspring are the F1 generation. And if you were to cross those F1 individuals with each other, their offspring become the F2 generation. Kind of like parents, kids, and grandkids.
Now, geneticists use different types of crosses to study all of this. A monohybrid cross looks at only one character at a time, like tall versus dwarf plants. A dihybrid cross levels it up and looks at two different characters simultaneously, like seed shape and seed color. A test cross is this fantastic genetic detective tool. You cross an individual with a totally unknown genotype against a homozygous recessive individual. Based on the offspring, you can actually figure out what that unknown code is. And finally, a bat cross is any cross between an F1 hybrid and either of its original parents.
Section 4. Cells, reproduction, and mutation.
Obviously, reproduction relies on specialized cells. A gamete is a reproductive cell, like a sperm or an egg. Gametes are haploid, represented by the letter N. This just means they contain only one complete set of chromosomes. Essentially, they're plen with half a deck. But when two gametes fuse together, they form a zygote. The zygote is diploid, represented by 2N, meaning it now has two complete sets of chromosomes, a full deck, and is completely ready to develop into an embryo.
Let's look at some essential predictive tools scientists use. Pure breeding refers to homozygous individuals that produce identical offspring. To predict these breeding outcomes, we use a Punnett square, which is this super handy diagram developed by Reginald Punnett to map out all the possible genotypes and phenotypes. It relies heavily on probability, which is just the mathematical chance of an event occurring, like a 1 in 4 chance of getting a homozygous recessive trait. We can also map this over time using a pedigree, which traces traits across several generations of a family. Pedigrees are especially great for spotting a carrier. That's a heterozygous individual who carries a recessive disease allele but doesn't actually show symptoms themselves.
But, you know, the biological copying process isn't always perfect. A mutation is a sudden, permanent, heritable change in DNA. It's a typo in the manual, basically, and it's actually the ultimate source of new genetic variation. These typos can be caused by a mutagen, like X-rays or certain chemicals. As chromosomes are sorted out, we sometimes see linkage, where genes located closely on the same chromosome just tend to be inherited together as a package deal. But recombination and crossing over can shuffle that deck. Crossing over is the actual physical exchange of chromosome segments between homologous pairs during cell division. It's what creates beautiful, natural genetic diversity.
And finally, Section 5, Complex Traits and Disorders. When we zoom way out and look at entire populations, we talk about the gene pool. This is the total collection of all genes and alleles present in that group. Next is allele frequency, which measures the proportion of a specific allele in that population. Tracking changes here is literally how we measure evolution. Penetrance is the proportion of people with a specific genotype who actually express the matching phenotype, and this can be complete or incomplete. Expressivity is the intensity of that expression, like how mild or severe a trait is. And pleiotropy? This one is fascinating. It's when one single gene influences multiple entirely different traits. For example, the gene responsible for sickle cell disease affects the shape of red blood cells, sure, but it also causes pain and changes susceptibility to infections, all from one single gene.
Let's look at a few more complex interactions, because it's not always simple, dominant, or recessive. Polygenic inheritance is when one character is controlled by two or more genes working together, like human height or skin color. Sometimes there are multiple alleles, meaning more than just two alternative forms exist in a population, like with the ABO blood group system. In codominance, both alleles express equally and fully at the same time, like having AB blood. In incomplete dominance, neither dominates completely, creating a blended effect, like a red flower and a white flower making pink offspring. Epistasis happens when one gene completely masks the expression of an entirely different gene. And then there's atavism. This is the incredibly rare, surprising reappearance of an ancient ancestral trait in a modern individual, like a human baby being born with a small tail-like structure.
Crazy, right?
Finally, let's just quickly clarify the terminology around disorders. A hereditary disorder is one that is transmitted genetically directly from parents to offspring, like hemophilia. A congenital disorder is simply any disorder that is present at birth. It could be genetic, sure, but it could also just be environmental. And a genetic disorder specifically refers to a disease caused by actual abnormalities in genes or chromosomes, such as Down syndrome or Turner syndrome.
So the crucial point here for all you students is that mastering these terms really unlocks your ability to understand the incredible complexity of biology. Take a moment, pause the video, and grab a screenshot of this summary table we've put up. This is your ultimate all-in-one cheat sheet. From defining genetics as the study of heredity, to identifying genotypes as your hidden genetic constitution, to understanding how recombination creates new gene combinations, every single term here is a fundamental building block for understanding life itself.
We've explored the vocabulary of the most complex instruction manual in the universe today. But the ultimate test case is, well, you. Look at your own family tree. Think about your phenotypes. What dominant, recessive, or completely unexpected hidden traits do you think are waiting in your gene pool, just ready to be passed on to the next generation? I really hope this explainer has given you the foundational tools to start reading your own biological story. Keep learning, keep questioning, and until next time, stay curious.